Yo, what's going on guys? SpaceKong here, and my god have I got a lot of comments asking me to update this build. I mean, wow. Thank you all so much for the support and help you've given me in these last, well, it's probably been nearly a year now since I've done this channel. Maybe even more. But anyway, back to the build. Blue Nova! Alright, yeah, the Blazing Shield build. So there has been a lot of tweaking to this build. Check out the fully buffed stats. Oh yeah! So here we go. Max Magicka is 17k, which for a tank, health tank is, it's pretty decent. Not gonna lie. Maximum health, yeah, 65k. Yeah, that's gonna help a lot with this build, and I'll explain why later on. Although you guys probably already know if you've seen this build before, you know where this is going. But for those of you who are new to the build, stay tuned. And maximum stamina, we have 11k. It doesn't seem like a lot for a tank, it really doesn't, but I mean, we really don't need it. And yeah, I'll explain more about that later on. Magicka recovery, 1800. Now that's pretty decent considering we do have Magicka absorb enchants on our weapons as well, so we're not going to be running out of resource, and I will be testing that later on to show you guys. Stamina recovery, health recovery, meh, we don't really need that. We've got potions and stuff, plus we're Argonians, so when you drink a potion you get extra resources back. Yeah, we drink a potion, we're basically going to be back up to full stats. Spell damage and weapon damage, I mean, we are a tank, they're not going to be high, but, when we get the raid stats from other people when we're doing trials, then they're going to be, slightly higher. But to be fair, I mean, we're still a tank, and we're still going to be outputting a fair amount of damage at the same time. Physical and spell resistance are pretty decent. The physical going at 24k and the spell resistance going at 27k. So they're pretty good for where you want to be as a tank, although you won't be getting hit for your health much because you're going to be using a lot of damage shields. So the spell and physical resistance really won't need much tweaking or anything. You're not really going to have much play in this because you're not really going to be taking any damage. As for the attributes, I mean, they're going to be fairly straightforward. It's basically 64 points into max health. We're going to be using the Lord as a boonstone, which again gives us more max health. We're using Witch Mother's Potent Brew to give us max health, max Magicka, and Magicka recovery. The reason why we don't really need much stamina recovery is because we're not going to need a lot of stamina. We've got fairly good resource management as it is. Okay, so onto the gear. We were starting from the bottom, working upwards. We're using 5 pieces of the Green Pact, and we're going to be using Magicka recovery enchantments on every piece. It's healthy, and it gives us maximum health, health recovery, more maximum health. While you have a food buff active, your max health is increased by 2,412 health and 241 health recovery. We don't really need the health recovery, but the extra health helps a lot with this build because our Blazing Shield is going to be based off of our max health. For the sake of this video, I'm only going to be using purple except for the helmet and shoulders. That's because gold isn't really something that every player can have, and I want to show off this build being able to function on purple. And for the next piece, I'm using Plague Doctors. I'm going to be using 5 pieces of them, using the small pieces for Divines, and the large piece is going to be infused. It's going to give us maximum health, more maximum health, healing taken, and guess what? More maximum health. The last one gives us 3,861 max health, and that's quite a lot. Considering that we're Argonian and Templars, we're going to be getting quite a huge health buff, just from our passives alone. So as you can see, we've got a real tanky setup here. And when it comes down to the enchantments, I'm going to be using maximum health enchantments. So I've worked out that if you have large piece on infused, just for the big pieces, that's what gives you the best slot for max health. Whereas when it comes to small pieces, you're going to want to be using Divines just to get the extra max health from the Munderstone that we're using. The good thing about this update, well, the previous update really, is the fact that you get the Transmute Stones. And with that, it basically means that looking for best in slot gear is really not that long. You can just transmute to whichever one you want. So we're using Infernal Guardian, both pieces, we're using maximum health enchantment. For the small piece Divine, the big piece we're using infused. This gives us maximum Magicka, which is also good for the Blazing Shield build. And when you use a damage shield ability, you have a 50% chance to lob 3 mortars over 2 seconds to the furthest enemy, from you that deal 6.1k flame damage to all enemies within the 5 meters of that blast area. And this can happen every 6 seconds. So it's really, really powerful. And the fact that it's a proc set as well, it has a flat number ability. So yeah, it's going to be 6k every hit anyway. And that's not including critical hits. If you hit a critical, then it's going to be even more. And we have like a 25 or 27% chance critical, so it's not going to be proccing that often, but when it does, it's going to hit hard. And the fact that it lobs 3 fireballs at the same time, it's going to be pretty overpowered, mixed with our other skills as well, because I have updated this quite a bit. We've got some new skills, new area effect abilities, and yeah, this build is just going to wreck. Alternatively, you could use an off piece for health. Okay, so for the back bar, we're using dual wield. I'm using one magic enchantment on one, and then I'm using a stamina enchantment on the other. I'm using precise. It doesn't really matter. You can use defending if you really want. It doesn't really make much of a difference. The reason why I'm using dual wield is for the dual wield skill line, which I will get to later on. On the front bar, we are using sword and board still because, you know, we are still a tank. And the only reason we're using the dual wield is just for an extra buff because, you know, we don't need 2 sword and boards when we're tanking. Okay, so let's check out the skills. We'll be starting off on the back bar because that's what we get our buffs from. So the reason why we're using dual wield is for the deadly cloak skill, which you can only get in the dual wield skill line. And what it does is it creates a load of razors that float, like fly around you and stuff, and then they explode at the enemy, basically hitting them for 798 physical damage every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. And it also reduces damage you take from area of effect attacks by 25%. So it's going to make you tanky, and it's going to deal damage. Kind of a little bit like the Blazing Shield. So that's pretty awesome. Ritual of Retribution. Now this one's pretty good because it basically it cleanses you, so any harmful effects, up to 2 of them, are removed. And it also heals you for 735 health every 2 seconds for 12 seconds. Which again is pretty awesome, and any enemies that come within your vicinity of this takes 704 magic damage every 2 seconds for 12 seconds. But that's not all. And it also has a Purify synergy which heals your allies and also cleanses them of any harmful effects. Awesome! Restoring Focus. It lasts 18 seconds, and if you leave your circle, it lasts 8 seconds after leaving it, so it's pretty long duration. What it does is it gives you your major resolve and your major ward, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 5,280. It also gives you minor vitality and minor protection, increasing your healing received and reducing your damage taken by 8%. So that's going to make you very tanky. Be sure to keep this buff up at all times. It's also an extremely cheap skill to use. Okay, so the next one is Structured Entropy. Now, this one is a passive skill. We don't use it. We don't need it for anything other than just to sit there in our skill bar. Because while it's slotted, your max health is increased by 8%. Which, you know, more health gives us more Blazing Shield, which is, you know, bigger damage shield. Next up, we have Inner Rage. Now, this is your range taunt. It's, you know, pretty simple. What it is a taunt where you won't need to run to your enemy. So that's pretty awesome. It also costs Magicka, so if you use your melee taunt and your range taunt together, you know, you can sort of balance out your resource management, just in case. Empowering Sweep. Now this is going to make you even more indestructible. So basically, yeah, you swing your Adric Spear around, damaging the enemy for 3.6 Magicka damage to all nearby enemies, and an additional 1,700 magic damage every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. That's good as it is for the damage, but the reason why we use it is because it also reduces damage dealt to you by 15% for 10 seconds, plus an extra 4% for each enemy hit. So that's also pretty awesome, considering you're basically indestructible. Proximity Detonation. Now this is on your front bar. This is where we get the whole Blue Nova from, because you combine this with your Blazing Shield. And what it does is it puts a bomb on you, which after 8 seconds explodes for 2.2k magic damage to all enemies in the area. For each enemy the bomb hits in the radius, increases the damage done by 25% up to a maximum of 250%. So yeah, you're going to be hitting a ton. If you have like a load of mobs, which I will be demonstrating later on, you're going to be hitting high numbers. Blazing Shield. Now this is the bread and butter of the build. This is what's going to make you indestructible. Surround yourself with solar rays, blah blah blah. Basically grants you a damage shield for 36% of your max health for 6 seconds, and that's pretty good considering we have a lot of health. And for each nearby enemy, when you activate the shield, it increases the strength by 4%. when the shield's activated, so it's going to be even more than 36% if you're surrounded. When the shield expires, it explodes, dealing 47% of the damage absorbed to nearby enemies. Wow. So not only is it going to make you indestructible, it's also going to dish out a lot of damage. Combine that with the proximity detonation, which also increases for more people, and you also have your razor blades. Repentance. Now, this is for your stamina. Not only does it heal you and your allies by 3.4k health for each corpse on the floor, it also restores nearly 3k stamina to yourself for each corpse on the floor, which is awesome. And just for having it slotted, it gives you minor fortitude, endurance and intellect, increasing your health, stamina and magic recovery by 10%. So this skill is a must-have. And it's completely free, it doesn't cost a thing. Shield Assault. Now this is your gap closer, because being a tank's going to get tiring, having to lug around all that armor with not a lot of stamina. So what it does is you basically rush the enemy and do 1.4k physical damage and stunning them for 2 seconds. You also gain a damage shield after the attack, which absorbs nearly 9k damage for 6 seconds. Now that's quite a lot. Combine that with the other damage shields, you're unstoppable. Pierce Armor. Now this is your melee taunt. It's pretty straightforward. It deals 2k physical damage and taunts them for 15 seconds. It also affects them with Major Fracture and Major Breach, which reduces their physical and spell resistance by 5.2k for 12 seconds. Now, not only does it allow your team to dish out more damage, it also allows you to dish out more damage with your Blazing Shield. So for the ultimate, we use an aggressive Warhorn. Now, this one's fairly straightforward. It basically increases everyone's max magicka, stamina, and health by 10% for 30 seconds. But it also gives your allies Major Force, increasing their critical damage done by 15% for 9.5 seconds. So, you're going to have a 28k damage shield, which means when that expires, you're going to dish out 14k damage back. Your Razor Cloak will dish out 800 every 3 seconds, and your proximity detonation, well, considering how many enemies are going to be in there, you're going to be dishing out a shit ton. Okay, so for the passes, I'm just going to sort of skip through this and show you which ones I have. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, yeah, okay, we've got all of these. All of them. So basically, in a nutshell, all of the Templar passives. Okay, and all of the Sword and Shield passives, because they're all pretty awesome. Dual Wield, we have all them as well, just because why not. All the armor passives, because we're also using the Undaunted passive, which gives us more max health, which is for our build. We're using Slayer and Banish the Wicked just for ultimate. All the Mage's Guild abilities. So for the Undaunted, we have the Undaunted Command and the Metal. All the Assault and Support. I don't even know if we need all of them. We probably don't. We're also Argonian, which means we can swim really fast, because that's really important, apparently. For the resource, we have 3% extra magicka, and when we drink a potion, we gain a lot of resources. We have 9% max health, and we are poison and disease resistant by 1.4k. Quick Mend, which also increases our healing done and healing received by 5%, which makes us more tanky and more of a support role. Champion points. Okay, so we're using 30 into Warlord, because cost of break free, you know, it's pretty decent. We're using Moon Cutoff and Arcanist. 50 into Shadow, and then 40 into Tumbling, just for a little bit of extra resource management. We're using Blessed, Elfborn, Elemental Expert, and Spell Erosion, putting 60 into each of them. The reason why we have more spell penetration stuff is because we will be doing more damage with the Blazing Shield. Ironclad, because we're tanky as fuck. Spell Shield, and last but not least, we are going to use some Bastion, because you know, we're using damage shields. That's basically what our build is revolving around. And just in case our damage shield is gone, we're going to be needing some heavy armor focus. And as for survivability against boss battles, I thought why not go for a boss which requires 2 tanks and healers. So let's tank this for a little bit, just to sort of show off the build's tankiness. You will be doing a lot of dodging in this battle, because this boss is, you know, he one-shots even tanks, especially with that conal ability. So for those skills, you will have to dodge. But yeah, you can tank this boss and do a little bit of damage without having to switch out a secondary tank or have yourself healed, because you pretty much got that covered in all bases. Now, note that I'm not using any raid buffs or Warhorn or anything like that, so this is literally base stats with, well, self-buff from being a Templar. So yeah, I'm missing quite a few buffs here, and it's still tankable. As for resource management, it's pretty fucking sweet. So with this build, you will need to keep your damage shield up most of the time, in fact all the time, because if you take too much damage, then obviously you're going to die, but you do have a lot of physical and spell resistance and a shit ton of health. See, that hit there and just took down quite a bit of health. This boss is a one-shotter. And look how fast you're healing up, considering you're not even using a healer, we're almost going up to full. But I mean, to kill this boss will probably take a billion years. And I don't think I've got that time. And as far as multiple mobs go, well, this is where the build really shines, because the more mobs there are, more people attacking you, the stronger your magicka detonation is, the stronger your blazing shield is. Even your deadly razor cloak every 3 seconds when it explodes is going to be hitting more enemies. So the idea of this is just to test myself against a lot of mobs. So I'm just going to basically pull a lot of them and then try and take them down. So just to note, this is the first and only attempt I've ever done of this place. So it might be a little sloppy, but even still for a first try, this build is extremely easy. Okay, so here they come. So I get my buffs up, and then I get my magicka detonation on. Make sure you get your empowering sweep just to give yourself the extra damage reduction. And here we go, Blue Nova time! See, look how much damage is going to all of them, and I'm still tanking. All I'm doing is just staying alive, and it's doing all this damage with the razor blades. We've got the blazing shield going on, we've got the magicka detonation. This build is crazy. It's basically just gonna keep on slaughtering, and all I'm doing is just surviving. I'm not taking any damage. And even if you do take damage, all those dead bodies, you can just basically use them to get yourself some stamina and health back anyway, so it's an instant full resource. Not to mention with the Infernal Guardian, like 50% proc chance. That's incredible. Basically, yeah, those fireballs just hitting people, and it's not really like, it doesn't even just hit one, it hits everyone in that area. So yeah, you just basically tanking and destroying at the same time. And I don't know if you saw that just now, but I had no resources and I popped a potion back up to full resource. So being an Argonian means that just for popping a potion you gain 4k health, magicka and stamina, as well as getting the trifect from the tripod as it is anyway, so you're going back up to full resource. Also a quick note that the blazing shield gives you 37% of your max health as a damage shield, but it increases by 4% for each enemy in the area when you hit them. So earlier when I was against the massive mob, I was basically getting an incredible damage shield. So if anything, the more mobs, the more powerful you are anyway. And it's a different approach to tanking, because a lot of tanks, most people think that tanks are literally just taunt and hold block, which that's not how people tank anyway. If anyone's ever tanked ever, then they would know that there's a lot more to tanking than just that, and there's also different ways to tanking that suit different people's needs. For me, I prefer to sort of be a bit skill based, rather applying buffs and doing a little bit of damage and tanking. I don't really like to just sort of stand there and taunt and block and then put out a couple of buffs every now and then. I like to sort of play the game a bit, so put up a damage shield and then help out the group with a little bit of damage and still do your tanking job. If you're tanking, you should never, if you want to do some DPS, you should never just sort of sacrifice tanking to do DPS. If you're a tank, you should stay as a tank, but if you can put out DPS, then definitely go for it if you don't lose any tanking abilities. But that's all for today, so I hope you all found this video useful and enjoyed it. It's been taking a little while to do this. A lot of testing went into it, and yeah, so sorry it took a little while, but finally got around to it, and I'll probably do another update when the next one comes out anyway. So hope you guys have enjoyed this video and found it useful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please leave a like and subscribe. And if you want to see more builds, any more unique stuff, anything you want to see, just let me know in the comment section below. But besides that, have a great day. Peace!